There are moments in life when the weight of trials feels almost unbearable, when it seems like there's no way out. And I've been there. And today I want to share with you what it's like to hold on to faith when all seems lost. When I was 21 years old, I was working at the mall, Franklin Park Mall. And I worked at one of these small kiosks in the center of the hallway in the mall. And I worked for a company called the Almond Tree Nut Company. And we made candy-coated flavored nuts, cashews, almonds, pecans, peanuts. And so part of my job was to make the nuts and then to give out free samples. And so that's what I was doing. I was handing out free samples, and I saw this pretty girl walk by. And I just wanted her to come over so I could talk to her. And so I asked her if she would like to try a sample. And she did. She came over. And so we sparked up a conversation. And I really liked her, and she really liked me. And so I asked her for her phone number. And then not too long after that, I called her up when we started going on dates. And it went really well. And it didn't take us too long for both of us to fall in love. And the funny thing is, when I fell in love with her, I was reminded of what true love was. That God loved me so much, he was willing to make sacrifices. And in that feeling that I had for her, that I had loved her, that's what I wanted to do. And because of that reminder, when we got married, 6 months later we got married, I wanted to start going to church. I wanted to show God that I loved what he had done for me. And so we did. We were going to church as much as possible, and life was good. We were very happy. And because of that, we wanted to start a family right away. And so just a couple weeks before our first year anniversary of being married, we gave birth to our first child, named her Abigail Faith. And it was great, building a new family, in love with my woman, loving my kid. And so I wanted more of that. And so we got pregnant again, and we had our second child, named him Malachi. And after the birth of my second child, that's when things started to change. That's when the trials started to come. Because she got sick. My wife, she got sick. She stopped having bowel movements. She stopped eating as much because she'd be nauseous, and anything that she would eat, it would come back up. And that's when the grief began. It became very hard. It was a very hard trial in our life. And it's one that lasted a while. It lasted a while. And it started to get worse. She started losing weight. After she gave birth to my son, she was 135 pounds about. And over time and over the months, she just kept getting skinnier and skinnier, getting sicker and sicker, in and out of the hospital. And because she was getting so sick, she wasn't working anymore. And because of that, our finances started to struggle. We had bought a house, we had bought a car. And now that she wasn't working, we couldn't pay the house payment on time. We were hoping that things were going to turn around soon and that we can get back to things, but it wasn't happening. She just kept getting sick and worse, losing more weight. And so our finances, they struggled. And then her illness, it took a drastic turn. She started losing weight fast. And she got down to 85 pounds. She looked like a walking skeleton. And I want to take a pause right here and tell you that through all of that, my wife and I were very worried. We've been praying about it. We'd been seeking counsel about it. And through it all, we were still being grieved every day because it just didn't feel like this was going to end, and it seemed like maybe it might end with the loss of my wife. And right in the middle of that, because I really want to give you a picture of how deep the struggle got. Okay, so the bills aren't being paid and our finances are terribly struggling. So one day I wake up in the morning to go to church, and I'm still trying to honor God and love God. And so I'm in the choir. And so I wake up Sunday morning to put my shoes on. I got my suit on, and I'm looking down at my shoes, and I see that they've been ruined. Somehow my kids have gotten a hold of my shoes and had ruined them. And so I thought, what should I do? What do I do? And so I thought, I'm going to take these tennis shoes. They're all black. There's no scuffs on them. And I'll wear these maybe a week or two until I can figure out how I can get myself some dress shoes. And so I go to church, and I go in the choir. I do my part. I come out of the choir, and I'm standing in the hall, and my pastor comes to me. And I don't know why he had done this to me, but I look back on it, and I see that maybe the Lord wanted to bring me to a very low place so I can have an understanding of where Christ was and where other people who have been through hard trials have been. So he was bringing me down a path. And so the pastor, he walks up to me, and he comes real close to me so nobody else can hear. And he says, very coldly, he says, next week, you come with dress shoes on or you're out of the choir. And he turns and he walks away. And in that moment, I felt so small and so alone. I felt lost in that moment. I was shocked and devastated. I was already grieving over the possible loss of my wife and watching my house and my car and everything slip through my fingers. And now the service that I have unto the Lord, that was ripped away from me. I couldn't go get me shoes. So I quit the choir. And not too long after that, I wake up one morning and my wife says to me, she looks terrible. I remember she's wearing these jean pants that she used to wear, and she's holding them up. She's holding them up with her hand on one side, and she looks at me, I gotta go to the ER. She looks terrible. And we got 2 babies at home, so I says, I can't remember if she left herself, or I think maybe her sister came and got her. I can't remember exactly how that happened. But she left, she went to the hospital, and I'm at home and I'm waiting for a word. I'm waiting to find out, what's going on. And so I do receive a phone call, and I pick up the phone, and it's not my wife. It's a doctor. And the doctor says, your wife, she's actively dying. We need to get her into emergency surgery right away, and we need your permission to take her in. And I said, doctor, just do whatever it takes. We got 2 kids at home, and I love her so much. Just do whatever it takes. And so they do the surgery. Now, I want to take another pause to give you an understanding as to why she had gotten sick. Because after the surgery, the doctors had given us an explanation of why they believe all this had happened. Because what had happened is her colon quit working. And long ago, long before I knew my wife, when she was born with a tumor on her coccyx bone. And it was a pretty large tumor. And very early in her life, they had to do surgery on her to remove it. And so they did. And then after that, there was other surgeries, cosmetic surgeries to shape her body. And what the doctors believe, because of that tumor and because of those multiple surgeries that she had to have to correct the shape of her body, when she gave birth to my son, it caused the nerve endings that were attached to her colon to detach. And so because of that, her bowels quit working, and it toxified her body, and it made her really sick. And so in that surgery that they had done, they had taken the small intestine and fixed it so it would come out of the stomach, essentially giving her what is called an ileostomy. I was grateful because it saved her life. I did not lose my wife, and my children did not lose their mother. But we did lose. We lost a lot. We lost the house because the medical bills, they piled up. I know they were over $100,000 in medical bills. And on top of that, our house payment was far behind. Our car payment was behind. And so we were forced to file bankruptcy, foreclosure on the home, and we almost lost the car. I was able to scrape up enough money to pay the final payments. We were able to keep the car, but we had to move out. We had to move out of the house we had hoped to build our family. And in that moment, I didn't know where we were going to go. And by the grace of God, my dad, he comes to me, he says, "Son, I've been flipping houses. And I believe that the Lord had led me to flip houses because he knew that you were going to need one in this time." So he says, "Son, I want you to move into this house that I just got it fixed up, and I want you and your wife and your kids to move in." And that was one of the graces that God had shown me in that time. And through it all, we did our best to hold on to promises that God had promised us. Mainly one of the ones, this is probably one of the very first times somebody had pointed me to the verse Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. And looking back on it now, there are many lessons now that I have learned that I would like to share. But I'm going to end this video here now, and in the next video, I will share some of the lessons that I have learned. Thank you for watching the video, and if you would, please hit the like and the subscribe button, and always remember to take care of yourself.